welcome back to the vlog. I know I'm starting all these vlogs in the car. I'm so sorry about that, but I just got off of work real quick. Nothing too interesting happened at work today or at my internship. I'm writing a memo currently that's due tomorrow at the end of the work day, so I gotta finish that. Another thing that happened today is basically that a witness came in and the individual was basically updating the investigators on the case and the DA about something that they didn't mention before. So I got to watch them like interact with this individual and just talk to this individual. So that was really interesting, and just hearing the DA talk about, you know, everything that's going on with that specific case. So I got my memo and the witness. Right now though, I am in Santa Monica because you guys know I started those like Buddhism courses. So I'm taking two. If for those of you who are new who don't know, I'm taking two. On Mondays I have a meditation course, and then on Saturdays I have like a philosophy course that basically goes through like this is Sakya, if I'm saying that right, Sakya Buddhism. So they're just going through kind of like the methods of thinking, or the methods of thinking about the world according to this Buddhism practice. So I'm currently in Santa Monica right now because they have their center in Santa Monica and they're open today for the meditation. So I just got off of work, switched cars because I was driving my sister's, and now we're gonna head into the center and just do my meditation. Usually it's been like we just go, we do about 2 rounds, about 15 to 20 minutes of just silence, obviously meditating, focusing on the breath, and then we just kind of debrief afterwards. But I really wanted to come check out the center, and because I'm gonna be coming a lot more often, and yeah, that's what we're doing right now.
Waking up feeling like it's gonna rain.
Home from the center, and it was so nice in there. It's like a small center. It was really beautiful. Lots of like scrolls, lots of like statues, and like books. I bought just like, well, first the lady in there gave us like these books, and it's like prayers for every day that we're allowed to do. And then I bought this like Buddhist basic book for like $6. It's like super cheap in there, but she was taking me through the process, which was just explaining to me the process of becoming a Buddhist. And she mentioned that you have to take refuge, which is something that I haven't seen anywhere at all, at least I guess for them, I should say, because I have not researched it. I just got home. I will be doing that right now. But what she was explaining to me is that you have to take refuge, which is basically that the Lama who is at that center comes and he gives you refuge, and then you kind of get, it almost sounded like permission to like get all this knowledge and practice like rituals and things like that. It very much sounded like what I've researched of African spirituality, because a lot of what happens is exactly that. When you want to practice things like voodoo or hoodoo or anything like that, or any other part of African spirituality, a lot of the times you need to go to like an elder who will take you in and give you that permission, give you like a deity or something like that to that's specifically for you. And that's what she was explaining, that when the Lama comes, you take refuge, he kind of gives you one of the deities, and you're not allowed to practice with that any deity until you've been given one officially. And then he gives you like a specific mantra for you that you practice, and that he just kind of helps you. So I have decided that I will be taking refuge, and hopefully the Lama comes, you know, while I'm still in California, so I can do that before I leave, so I can continue my practice in North Carolina. I'm just really, I wanted to go to the center because this book here that I've been talking about a lot, first of all, the author is problematic as heck, like, and I hate to be one of those people that is like, yeah, he's problematic and he's definitely probably hurt people, but the book's good, but it sucks because the book is good. And one of the things that it really stresses is the fact that you need to find like a spiritual friend, what he calls a spiritual friend, and what the lady in the center called the spiritual friend, which is basically like a mentor, to take you through the process. Because when you go through it yourself, there's it's easier to fall into pitfalls of spirituality and just kind of fall into confusion. So I'm really excited about that. During meditation, I also decided to take like a major step back from one of my I guess longest friendships that I've had thus far, just because I haven't been feeling like the reciprocity, and I've decided that that's really important to me. I don't like the whole like match a person's energy type thing. Like if I have one energy and I feel like it's up here, I don't want to go down here and match anybody's energy. Like I don't want to do that. Like if I feel that if I wouldn't do something to an individual and they are comfortable doing that thing to me, then there's an issue with me. And I don't want to match them where I'm doing this thing that I would never do to someone just because they've done it to me. That's just not who I am. I have like an issue with ending female friendships because I do find it a red flag when other women don't have other women as friends. And I think it's also a red flag when women like end friendships often. But I've like gotten myself in like kind of like steady messes with female friendships because I've been so scared to be that red flag and end a friendship. Like literally what like my last best friend told everyone without my permission that I was SA'd and then left me alone in New York City with a $700 hotel bill. And my other one talked mad crap about me. So and I hesitated to end those because I just didn't want to be that person. But it's like when it's not working anymore, it's just not working anymore, and there's nothing that you can do about it. I mean, at first I kind of thought it was just me and I was projecting onto this friendship because I felt like vibes were off. So I mentioned it. I was reassured that vibes were not off. So I was like, okay, maybe it is me, and maybe I need to communicate a lot more clearly about the fact that I do want to spend time together. Like at one point we just kind of had each other to hang out with, and now it seems that when other people have been introduced, I'm not kind of getting that invite, even though I am also meeting different people and hanging out with different people. The difference is I do always extend like the invitation, the plan making, all of that stuff to make sure that like I still want to hang out with you. I still want to involve you. I'm not trying to kick you out of my life just because I'm hanging out with new people, and that's just not happening back. So I directly communicated like, hey, like I'm really interested in this thing, and they were like, yeah, I really want to do that thing too. Like I'm trying to make plans for it. And I was like, whatever plans you're making for, like it was like tomorrow night or whatever, last weekend, I was like, I would love to go, whatever it is you're doing, I would love to go hang out with you, all this stuff. And the fact that they still planned the whole thing, and I did not get that invite for sure. What I did get was a phone call being like, oh my god, it was so much fun, I had the best time of my life. And I'm just like, rip. That, and I haven't on multiple occasions in this specific relationship. I have specifically not done that. I always try to include whoever into whatever I'm doing. If I have like more friends in a certain situation, I always try to include it, unless when I've done so, something comes up that's like, okay, these people don't mesh well together. But like, you know, with their new friends, I've never met them. With my friends, they have, and I always try to invite them, and I just kind of feel like, okay, then something is definitely up, and that's just something I wouldn't do to this person. I wouldn't do to anyone, and I'm not going to accept that being done to me. Nothing mean, there's still a lot of love there. It's just, I just don't want to accept that, and that's okay. I've realized that it's okay for people to, you know, forget me. It's okay for people to outgrow me, and my sister is like screaming. And it's okay for people to not want me in their lives, to stop liking me, to not want to hang out anymore. All of that is completely fine. I just like things to be clear.
When you ask me if I'm okay, I don't have a lot to say. Can't tell you something I do not know.
Good morning, happy Tuesday. The fact that it's only Tuesday is something. But I woke up this morning early. I've been really into trying to do workouts in the morning, and maybe even doing 2 workouts a day. So today I did some cardio jump rope, and I don't remember when jump rope got so hard, like a skill I have to relearn or something, because I'm pretty sure I used to be really good at it, you know, double dutch. Now I was like having such a hard time staying like in the rhythm, but it was really hard, and a great form of cardio. I think Daisy B Fit does jump rope. That's where I saw it. I be influencing y'all. You best believe I'm getting influenced too. I just finished making a smoothie. So after the last vlog, I asked about like vegan ways for me to go about getting my protein, and I got several messages on Instagram and one on YouTube talking about silken tofu in smoothies and the fact that that's a great way to get my protein in. So I went to the store earlier this morning. We got some silken tofu, put it in here, and I'm going to try it. Now I haven't been eating in the mornings anymore because I'm just not hungry in the mornings, so I guess I'm kind of like fasting, but I'm gonna try it just for the sake of making sure that this is good. You know what? Y'all are onto something. Y'all onto something, because I was ready to say that I was gonna beat y'all's asses for recommending this to me, but this is pretty good. It is a lot creamier. It's like it has no taste. The silken tofu, obviously tofu has no taste. So let me show you guys or read out the macros for this because it's amazing. Okay, so in here I have about 270 grams of silken tofu. I have mixed fruit, about 2 cups, 2 cups of vanilla almond milk, and my blueberry muffin protein powder. Let me show you guys what that looks like. It's from a brand called Cos. Looks like that. That is my protein powder. And then I also added 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, and that ends up being about 50 grams of protein and 684 calories, which is awesome.
Sitting on my own in a hotel room on a rainy day.
And people, it is currently about 5:30 in the morning. I am up, obviously at home. I'm currently working on my memo that I've been working on for my internship. Essentially, I think he wants to file it today, and the written part is done with. Right now I'm just working on the citations, and I've mentioned it in the last vlog, the last couple of vlogs, how different things are like in law school and then in real practice. And I know attorneys used to say this to me all the time when I talk to them, but one with the citations, I asked him like, how do you want me to cite? Because obviously when we're in school they tell us exactly how to cite, and everything is so incredibly just like, you have to do this, you have to do that, it has to look like that, blah blah blah. And he was just like, I mean, like, I don't know, I guess you could do this, I mean, if you have an idea. I'm like, you want me to think and come up with something? Because I can't. And also something he said today too, yesterday, that kind of like blew my mind, was like, I asked, like, at school, obviously after every period there's 2 spaces, so I was like, is that what you do here? And he was like, yeah, usually, but if you do something different. And I was like, I thought that was like a strict rule that I was going to get like sent to the guillotine if I didn't fucking do it.
Guillotine.
Why did I say it like that?
Happy Friday, you guys. I know, bad camera quality. I forgot my camera in the car, and I couldn't go get it because I had an interview, and I was kind of running a little bit behind. So yeah, you guys have to deal with this for right now, for like the next minute or so. But I'm currently in downtown. I'm at WeWork. It's like a co-working space downtown, and it's beautiful. I just actually finished my interview. It was a screener interview with a firm for summer 2022 summer position. So I just finished that. It went really well. I really liked the partner who interviewed me. It was very like casual, like a casual just conversation. I had a bunch of knowledge prepared, but didn't really have to use it for this one because he was a screener. So I'm hoping that he liked me enough and that they invite me either again right now or for OCI. I'm actually gonna go home for a little bit, and then I'm meeting my sister and her friends at Universal Studios because I've never been there before, not when it wasn't Halloween. So we're just going to go have a nice time there. But yeah, it was a good interview. I'm really happy with it. Look at me. I'm like, look at my suit, look at my pants. Y'all, look at this. Just got out of the Harry Potter ride and it was awesome, but guess who just got their first callback? Free OCI within like an hour of the interview. I'm telling you guys, New York next summer is gonna see my ass, dude. They're gonna see me because I may not be top 10%, but I'm likable.
One day you will be a modern
We are back home from Universal, yay. I had a really fun time. I liked the Harry Potter ride and also the Jurassic Park ride was really good. I really dug that one. But yeah, now we're back home. I am going to, I don't know what I'm going to do right now. It's kind of late. It's like 8 or 9 p.m. But I'm happy about the callback. I think it's a really good sign. It's a great way to start this whole like interviewing process and sending letters and sending cover letters and resumes and all this other stuff. Like it's a really great way to start. And I am excited. And if I do have to go through OCI, then I'll just take that as an opportunity to meet more people and network and continue to be excited. Some of you guys have asked me about Grace Kelly. Here she is. I got questions whether or not she came with me to California. Obviously she did. Here she is. Oh, and she's leaving currently and showing people her butt. Thank you. Okay. But on an update on Grace Kelly, I remember I mentioned that she had cat kidney disease and she was stage 2. I think I have to go back in like 2 months or so to go and just get her checked out again to see where we're at. But honestly, I think the signs right now are looking really good. She got on her special food that they gave her, and one of you guys gave me a tip about moving her water away from her food. So I've kind of started inching her water away so she knows where it is. So that's been really good. Her fur on her stomach is coming back so good. I noticed yesterday that the fur on the back of her paws, on all of her paws, have been growing back in also. So that means that she's kind of okay. That means that she stopped over grooming, which was obviously the main issue, and I'm just so happy. And I think the legs, the hair on the back of her legs are not doing well. I was gonna show you guys, but she's not down today. I don't know what her problem is. Okay, hello. I'm at the park. Like that's a little bit away from my house. I think now would be a really great time for me to kind of debrief a little bit in regards to friendships and just kind of outgrowing your friends. I will say that I was told that if I speak about this in any way, especially like on this channel, you guys know I always, when I speak about situations that have happened to me, I tend to speak about them in relation to me and what I learned in those situations and how I can grow from those situations. Like what did I do good, what did I do wrong, and how can I move on. And I was kind of told that if I spoke about the situation in any way, it would be using the individual for basically clout, which I thought was kind of funny, because I feel like you have to have clout for someone to use you for clout, but you know, I digress. I was also told not to speak about what I've learned and how I'm going to grow or I'm growing from this situation out of respect for the other individual, which is also something I found funny, because, you know, if you admittedly disrespect someone, you shouldn't feel comfortable asking them to respect you in return. I think that respect is very much a you get what you give type of thing. And yeah, I just thought that was really funny. It's such a wild concept to me to disrespect someone and know that you've disrespected someone and disrespected like a friendship, and then in the same like time space or time frame ask for someone, that same exact person, to disrespect you. But it's something that I will touch on a little bit later, which is, you know, expecting people to treat you here, expecting this much from people but giving them this much. It just doesn't add up, and it just kind of creates conflict. But anyway, I will be discussing what I learned in this situation because I feel like it helps me with my growth and it helps me keep me accountable in terms of you guys hear it. And I'm talking about me. I'm not putting anyone on blast here. I've grown a lot over the last year and a half, and pretty much everyone in my life has noticed that. And one of the things I've gotten a lot better at doing and accepting is having conversations with people when things happen to me, kind of like this, where it's not just the, oh yeah, you're totally right, we hate that other person, like F that other person, and instead becomes a, what part of these events happened to you, and or what parts of these events did you create or help create, kind of like having conversations, adult conversations with people who can actually like look at the way that I'm behaving in a certain situation and actively tell me like, I think that you could have done better here, I think that you could have done better here, without me taking any type of offense to it. And then that's a really great way for me to facilitate my own growth, because I can hear that, take that into consideration, and then decide what I want to do with it. And that's kind of what I had with like my sister recently, when I was kind of talking to her about the situation and explaining to her what happened. And what I was doing was kind of patting myself on the back, because I was like really happy with myself that I was able to predict the reaction of this person down to a T. I knew exactly what was going to happen here. Like, I knew I wasn't going to get communication. I knew that I was going to get subtweeted. I knew that I was going to get, like basically gaslit. I knew facts and context were going to be taken out in order for this person to feel like they were in control of the situation from the get-go, because obviously over the years of us being friends, that is the pattern that I noticed. And something that I took from my last friendship that I ended was not to be surprised and not to be so egotistical, to see that someone has a way of treating people, has a way of behaving, has a way of talking to people, and expecting them to treat me any differently, because honestly I'm not different than anybody else that they know. I'm not better in any way, shape, or form, so I shouldn't expect that. And I didn't expect that here, and I was really patting myself on the back about it. And my sister was like, well, if you knew all of that, and a lot of the things that I ended up not liking or not messing with towards the end, the disgusting comments about women, overly critical about people, being a hypocrite, basically, all of that stuff, she was like, you basically knew that for a while and you didn't expect it to be treated any differently, but you're still in the same position. So let's talk about what your part in all this entire situation. And that started our conversation basically about growth and kind of my inability in this situation to find a middle ground between noticing that someone has like glaringly red flags and just leaving, and noticing that someone has red flags and deciding to stick around and kind of grow with them out of that. And we were kind of talking, or at least I mentioned the fact that a lot of the things that I don't like now that I'm saying about this individual are things that I definitely had before. Like, there are definitely characteristics and things that I used to do before I decided to actively grow out of them, things that were very much based in insecurity and fear and my inability to feel like I could do what they were doing, so I was just going to be overly critical. Also being like a hypocrite, all of that stuff, those are all qualities that I have had in the past, and over the last year and a half have worked really hard to change. So it was kind of difficult for me to feel right, not feel like a hypocrite for just leaving someone, stop being friends with someone for having qualities that I have had in the past. Like, it was hard to kind of find that balance. I mentioned before, but me being in my apartment by myself was literally just forced me to learn about who I was and grow. And it's also because I decided myself that I wasn't going to hide away from any of my negative attributes. I wasn't going to make excuses for myself anymore, and I wasn't going to basically just rationalize my bad behavior, but my bad mindset, any of that thing, because I was just alone by myself. There was nobody else around me to validate that for me. And over that period of this year, I've gotten so much better at communication. That's something I'm so incredibly proud of myself for. Like, and this situation made me even prouder of myself for, because I used to be so bad at communicating with people, like so bad at it. And over the last year, like, I've gotten so so much better at talking to people when things bother me. I always bring them up. When I feel like things are going wrong in a situation, or I feel like, you know, vibes are off, I will bring it up just so we can clear the air. If I feel like, you know, someone needs to clear the air with me, I will try to actively facilitate that conversation. And that's something that I did in the situation through and through. It just wasn't met. Like, I was here and I just wasn't met where it was, and that's kind of where things faltered. But I'm extremely proud of myself for my communication skills. Like, they've gotten so much better. Like, I'm so glad, because communication is key to everything. Your relationship is only as good as your communication, and I'm just so happy. I think that the test here in this situation from like the universe of whatever was, how much did you really learn from your last friendship? And I was able to do half of something, which was the whole recognizing that I wasn't going to be treated any differently. But it was also when someone you're close with constantly is doing things that completely goes against your values, completely goes against how you want to be, how you're trying to grow, what are you going to do? The first time around, I took a very long time to deal with the situation. I think this time I was a lot quicker with it, and in terms of just kind of trying to facilitate conversations, as in like trying to be vocal, as in like, I really don't like that these things are happening, or I don't like participating in these types of conversation with about women or about whoever anymore. That's not where I am, that's not who I am anymore. Maybe if you were talking to like high school Leandra, she would gladly kiki with you about how some girl posting a bikini photo is a slut and a whore or whatever, but that's not where I'm at anymore. Like, I'm not insecure like that in myself and in my body anymore, or just kind of being hypocritical and not really sticking to, not saying one thing and acting another way. Like, that's not where I am anymore, and those aren't my values. My values are the complete opposite. So like, I try to address it, and when I saw over and over again that it wasn't going to change, then that's when I kind of decided to end things. So I'll pat myself on the back for that one too. One thing I didn't do well in this situation, and I think I could definitely work on, and I think is kind of toxic of me, to be honest, was something I've mentioned before, which is to try and force someone's growth and someone's healing. Because I noticed, like, all of these patterns that I'm talking about is something that I noticed very early on, especially more towards this year, and especially this summer, now that we were kind of able to be closer together. Instead of, you know, realizing that and kind of moving on and acting accordingly, maybe stepping back from the friendship a little bit, maybe pulling back in general. I think I wanted to salvage the friendship so much that I was trying to force a type of conversation, a type of healing that they weren't ready for or weren't receptive to, which is completely fair for them to feel, and completely unfair for me to continue to try and do, even if it was, my intention was to try and, you know, get you where we're at so that we can continue to build like a healthy relationship. A great example of me being stubborn in this way would be that we had way too many conversations where it would be like, you know, look at what this girl is posting, you know, she looks like a whore, or I wouldn't feel comfortable bringing this type of girl around my parents because you look at what she posts, look at the way that she looks like she gets paid, things like that. And I would of course be vocal, as in like challenge those thinking, because I feel like they should be challenged, and that, like, we don't know these people. We have no reason to say that to these people, and the posts look completely fine. They're both beautiful. Like, in the examples that I'm thinking about, they were absolutely both beautiful women, and I'm like, that it doesn't correlate, like, it doesn't match, it doesn't make sense. Like, this is the 21st century, like, people post what they like, and that's that. Like, I feel like if there is a strong opinion about that, it's usually because you want to do the same thing, you just are stopping yourself, and then you end up like hating somebody else for doing something that you wish you could do. The conversations were way too much, because at some point I should have realized that the opinion was never going to change. I should have realized that my values in not saying those type of things, I wasn't going to convince the person to change whatever they thought, and I should have acted accordingly, and I did not. And instead I just tried to continue to try and point out every single time, like, hey, you can't say that, that's problematic. Like, hey, you should probably, you should think about why you feel the need to say these type of things, because they're not nice, they're mean, they're insulting, they're disgusting, things like that. I should have just acted accordingly, because that was kind of like a waste of my time, and I think a waste of her time, to be honest. Same thing with just saying like hypocritical things. Like, I would always make it kind of like my mission. I don't know why I thought that the more I just kind of was vocal, like, I'm not gonna listen to this, and if you decide to continue to have conversations with me about it, I'm going to point out the fact that I think you're wrong in the situation, or that I feel that the way that you're talking about this person is really wrong, or the way that you're saying this is incredibly problematic. Every single time, the feedback that I got from that towards the end was that that made me a negative person, and I don't think that that's negative. I think you should be friends with people who challenge the way that you think, and you challenge the things that you say, especially when they are problematic, especially when they feel that it's not something that is good for you necessarily, like good for your own growth, because none of these comments are, obviously. I definitely should have walked away in this situation, or at least like stepped back when I realized again that they weren't, that I had kind of outgrown certain behaviors that they were still participating in, and that no matter what I said, no matter how I tried to talk about what was going on in terms of like, maybe we should talk to a therapist about why we feel the need to do this, or maybe we should just kind of talk this through. I definitely should have walked away. It was just a lot hard to do so, because I can't deny that we probably bonded, and the reason why we came together so well was because we bonded over some of these really negative attributes. I think I moved past it and they haven't yet, and that's completely fine. Now on to things that I know I will be taking from this relationship and bringing on to my next one, because I feel like after every relationship I'm aware of more things that when I'm going to choose my friends, those are the things that I'm looking for. Those are the characteristics and the attributes that I'm looking for, that I know I work well with. And I'm really happy to say that over this summer, the last couple of weeks that I've been here, I've been able to meet more people who are at the level that I did the work to grow to. So that's good. But one of those things that I know for sure is just the communication. My sister pointed out that I probably end up in situations with people who are really bad communicators, because I decide to be friends with people who are closed-minded, as opposed to open-minded, obviously, in terms of that. She pointed out, obviously, that you should be able to, talk comfortably with your friends for everything. It shouldn't only be positive things. You should also be able to address negative things in order to facilitate each other's growth. And you should be able to give your friends, I guess, criticism or constructive criticism without them taking offense to it, or them being extremely defensive because of it, because then there's no growth there. Similarly, she just kind of reflected what I was already thinking, which is like, I have gotten to a level where I want to be friends with people, or I want to attract people who do not mind challenging me in the ways that I think, in the ways that I act, in the ways that I, behave, the things that I say. Like, I want to be friends with people who feel comfortable saying like, hey, the things that you're saying isn't any good, without like just completely just labeling it as being negative or being unsupportive or anything like that, because I do feel like that is a way to support someone, but that is my idea of what makes like a good friendship and may not be somebody else's, and I should definitely respect that. Anyone or people who would just be like, hey, I feel like either you're dating this type of people and I feel like they're not necessarily good for you, or I feel like I've noticed kind of a pattern with the type of people you date and they treat you such and such way, let's talk about it. Or, hey, I've noticed that you've been incredibly hypocritical, or even when we're just generally talking, like, hey, I feel like you're being hypocritical in this situation, or whatever, let's talk about it. Basically, that's what I want, that's what I crave, that's what I feel like helps me grow the most, and I feel like I'm at a place in my life where I'm willing to fully accept that without being defensive, because it's really for my own well-being in the end. I also think that I really cherish in relationships, and what I'm going to be looking for are people who hold themselves to the same standard as they expect other people to hold for them. And that's been kind of like a theme in another relationship that I had, in terms of like people constantly expecting to be treated in a much better way than they treat people, and just generally just being hypocritical in that manner. Like, I don't want to draw in people who are kind of hypocrites in that way, because I will point it out. Like, I will point it out. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I will point it out when there's some sort of like hypocrisy happening in a situation. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, that's not sitting right. Like, if you want respect, you give respect. If you want communication, you give communication. If you expect to be treated some way by people, or if you, heaven forbid, you cut off communication or cut off friendships with people because they do something else, then you shouldn't do it either, because it's just like, it's just conflicting. Basically, I want to be friends with people who do what they say they do, instead of just say things and then do opposites, because that's what I'm working towards becoming. That's what I want to be, and I want to draw in people who are the same way or even better than me at doing it, who can look at me and see when I'm like kind of not doing something that aligns with my goals, basically, and are able to point that out to me and move forward with me in that way. I also want to draw in people who I feel that I have reciprocity with. That is something that I'm going to be prioritizing the hell out of, because I need to be in friendships and relationships where we're giving each other equals amount of like time and space and freedom in our relationship, within the relationship, to grow, make mistakes, learn, do all of that. And it cannot be unequal. I think this event that just happened has just basically, if I didn't learn before, I've definitely learned it now, that it cannot work if that is unequal. And I think something that happened was, with everything that was kind of like brought up, as soon as I kind of responded back with, well, I feel like this and this and this, and I kind of like, you're pointing out this about me when you've done similar things, and you're kind of holding me to a higher standard than you're holding yourself. The response I kind of got back is everybody needs time to grow. Of course they do, but it's less in that situation, less of like everyone needs time to grow and everyone makes mistakes, and more of like, I need time to grow. I make mistakes. You should forgive me when I make the mistake, but when you make the mistake, it's a whole different deal. That's something that I just cannot deal with anymore. So reciprocity. I think also, for the sake of that this camera is going to die soon, one thing that I'm also going to be prioritizing is just trying to befriend people who I feel are also actively trying to work on themselves and actively trying to heal, and not just saying that they're working on themselves, not just doing the act, which is what I've really been learning a lot lately with all the books I've been reading and just like Buddhism. Like, you can do the act of like writing in journals and doing all of those things, but it's like, if there's no change in behavior, if you're just responding the exact same way to every single situation, even though you're working on yourself, it's not like actual work, and nobody gets any benefit from it. So I'm going to be prioritizing befriending people who are working on themselves. Either they're way past me and they can look at me and just kind of look at my journey and be there for me and on that journey and help me, or just like who are kind of on the same path as me, because I feel like at this point, with who I'm trying to be, that's important.
One last thing, and I had to switch to my phone, that I wanted to touch on was just kind of weaponizing the past, and also just allowing for space for growth in a relationship, that I feel like I've learned here, because what kind of ended up being like the catalyst or whatever, or the reason why I guess I was being treated so badly, I found out was because of some like alleged comments that I had made almost 3 years ago that caused unintentional harm, because I have never set any intentions to intentionally hurt someone that I love, because that's a friendship ick to me. As soon as someone does that to me, I'm out the door, which is what happened here, and the other one too. The idea of weaponizing the past, I think it's completely fine if someone said something to you 20 years ago that you remember now, and you remembered that it hurt you. I talk about this a lot on this channel, which is like trauma. When trauma happens, or when you get hurt, sometimes you don't realize how much that incident or that thing that someone said hurt you, and it might take like a week week, a couple of days, a week, months, years, it doesn't matter. Whenever you realize it, though, is whenever you realize it. And if you were hurt by it, or you were hurt by it, the most important thing about that would be the communication, because if you don't communicate that, then the other person is not aware of it at all. And then, you know, what can they do? Then they don't have an opportunity to grow from those comments and to take responsibilities for their actions, for the things that they said or didn't say, because you don't give them that opportunity. If, at least in my case here, if I do give the opportunity to address things multiple times, and the individual, whoever, decides not to take it, then it switches from me and switches back on to you or whoever, because I've done everything I was supposed to do. I've tried to take responsibility. I've tried to listen. I've tried to kind of be there, and I wasn't allowed to. So I'm just going to kind of move on at this point. Now it's not about me anymore. It's about you. I think I've actually mentioned this in another vlog where I was talking about, you know, the fact forcing healing, and the fact that I had to kind of apologize to my friend for just giving unsolicited advice and just saying things that, even though I had good intentions, they didn't want to hear, and that was causing them harm. And I made like a blanket apology for everything that I had said that had caused pain, caused hurt, because, you know, I had expressed something that hurt me, and then they had expressed some things in relation to this that was hurting them, and I made that blanket apology and promised never to do it again and to change. And I, you know, actively have never done it again, because that's what change is. And I actually wanted to change that behavior. It was not productive for me. It wasn't nice, and it was incredibly toxic. So I changed it, never did it again, and my apology was accepted. And now it kind of seemed like the same things were brought back again, to like weaponized in order to be used as an excuse to act in the way to hurt me. And something I read recently was, when someone apologizes to you and you accept an apology, then you don't get the right to do that anymore, because, you know, you both have already decided to move past it in terms of whatever has happened. So you don't get to weaponize it anymore. You can definitely feel however you feel, but now it's kind of, again, on you to work through that. But once an apology has been made and accepted, the weaponizing, the treating people like crap because of it, all of that stuff is just kind of like, just becomes a reflection of you and becomes like immature. I'm saying this, and I realized that in my last relationship I did this quite often, actually, and, you know, that's something that I haven't done again, but I wasn't aware that I had done that. And I'm kind of glad that I was able to see somebody else do it and realize that, oh, I did that, let me make sure I don't do that shit again, because it doesn't feel good, and it's just kind of immature on one side. Anyway, I'm done talking, and I feel like this talk was so long that I think I'm gonna end the vlog here. But you guys can obviously give me like whatever you guys have learned in your relationships, whether that's friendships, romantic relationships, that you feel like are really great lessons. Please share it. I would love to hear them. And or if you want to weigh in on any of the things that I said, you can give me constructive criticism. I always tell you guys I'm very open to it. But I'm really happy that you guys watched the video. If you watched it to the end, thank you. And thank you so much for, you know, rocking with me. I really appreciate you. Thank you for spending your time with me, and I will see you guys in the next video.